Roxabox90 here with another top 10 EDH countdown. So today we're going to go through the top 10 colorless cards for EDH. These mostly involve artifacts and colorless, not lands, so don't be confused by that. So criteria-wise, we're continuing with the same criteria, which is that these cards have to be fantastic in a colorless deck, but of course also be as universally useful 1v1 and multiplayer as possible. So that in mind, number 10 is Ulamog and Kozilek. In other words, the Eldrazi. And the reason why is because, well, they're huge, they're crazy powerful, and they can be used in just about any deck that needs really big, powerful creatures. Of course, their effects for the game, Ulamog is indestructible, Kozilek draws you a bunch of cards, they both have Annihilator, they're both big-bodied, and they have just a lot of raw value in terms of sizable creatures. So most decks, if they're running bombs, giant game-ending creatures, will consider running these two huge creatures. Pretty sure that's good enough reason for them to be on the list. Number 9, Expedition Map. Expedition Map is a card, one of the best artifacts for searching lands. The reason why is because though it only searches for one land, it gets you any land card, which means you can get anything from Shocks, Revised Duels, that sort of thing. Or you can go get Gaia's Cradles, Cabal Coffers, Command Towers, anything that you want land-wise, it can tutor for you, which makes it very, very flexible, and pretty much every deck can make use of it. Number 8, we have Gilded Lotus and Coalition Relic. They kind of, again, I personally would choose Gilded Lotus more, if only because the bulk mana and the fact that you can change the color of the 3 that you're adding, I find that people tend to use it a lot more than Coalition Relic, but Coalition Relic is by no means a bad card, and that made it a really hard decision. So for me, Gilded Lotus would be my pick, but I can see why other people would choose Coalition Relic, and both fit into the 8 slot. Number 7, we have All is Dust, which is the ultimate colorless Wrath effect, and it just destroys all non-colorless, non-land permanents, pretty much is what it does, which makes it one of the best sweepers for artifact builds, but it really works for any deck that wants to clear the field except for their own artifacts. It's one of the best ways to clear the board for any deck, very reasonably costed, fantastic Wrath spell, and of course it's really powerful in artifact and or more colorless oriented builds. Number 6, we have Skull Clamp, which is utterly ridiculous, and as you all know, these colorless are going to get insane. Skull Clamp gives you massive card draw. It's such an easy card to combo up or synergize with. You can put tokens into it, you can put utility creatures to reuse utility creatures to draw you tons of cards. Even just having it on a creature, if it's in the game and people see you're not abusing it, it can even just stay there, and people wrath or kill your creatures, and boom, you draw 2 cards, you put out another creature, and quickly and quietly it can build up and give you lots of card draw, which I think people will underestimate if you're not running tokens. But of course, if you're running something that has lots of utility, this card is massive broken card draw in EDH, as much as it's always been in everywhere else. Fantastic card. Number 5, we have Solemn Simulacrum, because he's a Solemn Simulacrum. Gosh, I mean, most decks use him. He's just pure utility for 4 for a 2/2 body that when he hits play gives you a land, and when he dies you draw a card. He's just raw value, and just about every deck I know of has at least considered running him if they don't actually run him. He's perfect utility for EDH. There's not much else to say. 4, we have Lightning Greaves, which is, of all the speed utility, protection utility, equipment cards for most anything, Lightning Greaves is the most flexible and useful. It costs 0 to equip, so it's easy to throw around your creatures. Of course, 2 mana to play and 0 to equip make it very powerful for commanders because it protects them, giving them Shroud, and it gives them haste, which means that your commander cards, the drawback of them, if they're Voltron, is they need to have some way of attacking pretty quickly. This card not only gives them that, but it also gives them haste. The fact that you don't have to put any extra mana into equipping makes it unbelievable utility. Yeah, it's just out of this world fantastic card. And even in decks that are not Voltron, it's still a very good way to protect everything. Number 3, top 3 guys. 3, we have the Swords. And yes, I did not specify which one because they are all insane. Some more than others, of course. The Sword of Feast and Famine, Fire and Ice, Light and Shadow, War and Peace, and Body and Mind. Body and Mind being by far the worst. Blue and green are just not the best colors to be protected from. Mill 10 really doesn't matter all that much, unless you're running a heavy mill deck, and even then it's not all that awesome. And a 2/2 Wolf does just about nothing. Sword of War and Peace and Sword of Fire and Ice I think are actually pretty close in power level, because people tend to keep large hand sizes in EDH, especially if they really can. They want to keep a large hand, which makes Sword of War and Peace's abilities pretty darn powerful. Red and white are up there in terms of spot removal in EDH, in terms of the best colors for spot removal. I think the only one that's missing is black. I think black, red, and white tend to be the best spot removal colors. Protecting from 2 of them, pretty awesome, and its abilities are very flexible and very useful. Fire and Ice, blue and red, not quite as powerful, but it does like to do 2 damage with consistency, so you can hit utility creatures, hit Voltron commanders that are in that range, or even just consistent damage to players. And drawing a card is never bad, so there's a mix-up there. Honestly, I think they are pretty close in level. Sword of Light and Shadow and Feast and Famine, honestly, I think are just about the best for EDH universally, because Sword of Light and Shadow gets you stuff back from your graveyard, but also protects against black and white, which I think are honestly the 2 best spot removal colors in EDH Commander, which means that when your guy has the Sword of Light and Shadow on him, or her, or it is more protected from spot removal, universally. Getting stuff back from your graveyard for reusability, very awesome. Life gain's not quite as important. Sword of Feast and Famine gives you card advantage by forcing discard. Black and green, while green's not the best color to be protected from, black is pretty darn good. And the fact that it untaps all your lands when it hits damage gives you a whole nother step. It's crazy powerful in EDH when lots of lands are being used, so your land bases are large. Untapping them all for another step, or even holding them open for following turns, is crazy. Personal favorite for EDH is Sword of Feast and Famine. 2, we have Sensi's Dividing Top, and really it's a 1-mana artifact. Every deck can use it, sorts your top 3 cards, protects itself. Every deck that can use it and can afford to use it should use it. Number 1, drumroll please. Soul Ring is number 1. And if anyone thought otherwise, well, yeah, it's Soul Ring. Though in 1v1, Soul Ring is not generally permitted unless you allow in your playgroup. Soul Ring is a shoe-in to any deck, especially multiplayer, that is a must-have. And it's just so powerful. It gives you such forward advantage. For 1 colorless, it's very easy to tutor up, very easy to play, and give you massive advantage early game, mid game, late game. You're always ahead of the game when you play Soul Ring. There's a reason that every Commander product from WotC comes out has a Soul Ring in it. It's that powerful. I would say for those who could afford it, Mana Crypt is fantastic as well, because it gives you the same effect with a slight drawback, but the fact that it costs 0 instead of 1 is also pretty insane. And the drawback is really not such a big deal in multiplayer EDH. Though, obviously, Soul Ring is definitely the one. So, here is my list. Let me know what you guys think about them. Put your thoughts all down in the comments section. Also, please like the video. If we get 50 or more likes, I'll be posting the top 10 lands for EDH Commander. So, let's tap that like button and get it up so we can get that video put together. And let me know your thoughts about the top 10 list going forward, what you'd like me to think about. And as always, Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.